Welcome everybody to our CTC webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist here at CTC, and today I'm going to be talking about how to be a library administrator in HIVE. Talk about some important strategies that you can use to be very successful. So, perhaps you've been assigned the role of library administrator, or you want to assign people the role of a library administrator. You want to know what this means, and you want to know if you are a library admin, what it actually takes to help ensure the library that you're administering is really well put together. In this session, we're going to cover all the controls that you need to know about that you've been given as a library admin and how you can use them to really help make sure those libraries in HIVE work well. So, what are we going to talk about exactly today? Library settings, managing users, adding content, managing some of that content, and then also handling requests that users may submit. We're going to cover all of those. And in fact, we're also going to talk a bit about how to set up a person as a library admin in the first place. That'll be a part of the library settings and admin users portion. So first off, I'm going to jump into the demo here directly inside of HIVE. Now, right out here on my desktop, you can see I've got a couple icons out there. At the very top, there's the HIVE icon for the actual HIVE Windows program, and there's the Active Directory Account Synchronizer. We're not going to talk about the Active Directory Account Synchronizer tool here. In this session, we've got other recordings that do talk about that. We're going to talk about the primary HIVE add-in here today. Now, everything that we talk about in the Windows program is also directly applicable if you're using this in one of our add-ins, specifically the Revit add-in. So feel free to follow along if you happen to be a library admin or a company admin. You want to set somebody up as a library admin. We're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. I'm going to log in, first of all, as myself. Now, my account is a company admin account, so I'm going to have a lot of controls. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the differences you'll see between a company admin and a library admin here. So I'm going to log in, and I'm going to go down into my libraries. And one of the libraries that I want to focus on today is my help library. So this happens to just have some application installation and help documentation for some of the peripheral apps. So things like Revit help, or maybe some of the Express Tools help, or things like that, maybe some installation guides, things like that. I'm going to open up this particular library, and we're going to take a look at some of the settings in here. And actually, before we get too far into the settings, let's take a look at adding a user as an admin. Right now, everyone has been added to this library only as consumers. They can open up content, and that's about all they can do. What I want to do is I want to add them. I want to add somebody, in this case, Joe Demo, as an admin to this library specifically. So I'm going to select that user, Joe Demo, and add that person as an admin. I'm going to go ahead and update this so that that user has the admin controls. Now, to the help library specifically, and that's the only library to which this user is an admin. Now, over here you can see as a company admin, I have a lot of different controls. I can do things like managing users and user groups. I can maintain some of the company settings. I'm going to log myself out and log in now as the actual demo user. So log out, log in as my demo user, and now you're going to see what the demo user, the library admin, will see. And here's where we're going to start digging into today's major presentation. So first off, you see a couple fewer settings over here on the side. Specifically though, you can see libraries, you can see content, and you can see the add content. All three of those are there specifically because I'm a library admin with this particular user to at least one library. If I click into libraries, you'll be able to see exactly which library or libraries it is you're an admin to. If I open up the help library, you'll see the exact same settings that I saw while I was in here as a company admin. As a library admin, you can do exactly the same thing to these libraries that I can do as a company admin. So here at the top, you can update the name. You can control the name of a library. You can also control the description of this library. And you can choose whether or not the content within this library is uploaded to the cloud. So when you process content here inside of HIVE, by default, this particular library will be uploading its content to the cloud. If I uncheck this, all new content added to this library will not be cloud hosted. Now, the cloud hosting is kind of important for this next little area down here for the users specifically. If content is up in the cloud, you then have a really easy ability to invite people from outside your firm. This invite option right here is actually to bring people outside your company's domain into using your Hive and some of the content in this library. You don't have to use that feature. You can just directly add users from your company that are already in the user system. Now, you don't have the ability as a library admin to actually add users. Notice how the users and user group controls are gone from Hive over here. You don't have that ability to add new users, but you do have the ability to associate users and user groups that are pre-existing inside of Hive with your library that you're adminning. If I click the add button right here, you'll see I can see all of the users that are actually in my Hive environment. And I've only got 2. You probably have a lot more than that. I've only got 2. If I go down here to user groups, I can add stuff here as well. If there was any additional groups, you know, I've got everyone and I've got the financial group, I can add any of these groups. And after I've added the groups, I can set their roles to whatever is appropriate. So I have consumer, contributor, and admin. And again, I, as Joe Demo right here, I'm logged in as an admin. And so I can actually change my own rights if I wanted to, but then the next time I refresh this library, I wouldn't have any controls if I made myself not an admin. So that probably wouldn't be a good idea. But if I'm adding a new user, like if I add, you know, my main account here to this, I can set up whatever role is appropriate for that user as well. Okay. I'm going to remove that for now because I don't need that user to be in there. Once you've got this library all configured the way that you like it, with the correct descriptions, the correct library name, proper users and user groups added to it, you can go ahead and just click update. Now, for the most part, this probably won't be too important to do very frequently. This is kind of like a 1 or 2 time thing. Apparently, I didn't actually make any changes to this, so I'm going to just cancel that out. But normally, you just click update. You're good to go. That'll actually help you change those settings. Ultimately here, what I'm going to do is go back to the content area. And this is the spot where a library admin will spend the vast majority of your time working with content and working with adding content. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is actually add some content. There's a new file that I'd like to have in this library that I know is not in there right now. So if I click add content, I can choose which library it's appropriate for me to add this content into. And again, all the libraries to which you're an admin will be listed here. I can choose any tags that are appropriate for this. And for right now, I'm going to leave that blank. But I'm going to add either files, individual files, or I'm going to add a folder of content. This will actually let you add in all the files of a single folder into the Hive. You can actually do a little bit of management to that here and strip out a couple that you don't need, but you can very rapidly add a bunch of files quickly through the folder option. In this case, I'm just going to do a single file. I'm going to go out here and browse to my C drive, to program data, where I've got this piece of help documentation. This is in the CTC folder, and I'm going to be adding one of my other tools from our data suite, or from our suites of tools called the Project Suite User Guide. So right down here, BIM Project Suite, and right there is the user guide. There's a PDF. Now, most users wouldn't necessarily know where to go find this, but on all of their computers, on their C drives, when they have these tools installed, they'll find it right there. So I'm going to put this into Hive so all users will be able to find this file very quickly and very easily if they were to search for Project Suite User Guide or User Guide or anything like that inside the Hive environment. So I'm going to click Open. That's going to grab that file and put it into this list. It knows the file size. It knows the name of the file. I can also associate some tags to this, perhaps, like maybe help. If I want to add help as a tag, let's put capital H here. Not that I would need to do that because the library itself is help, but if they wanted to filter based on help documentation, I could do that. Maybe I wanted to put user guide. And the nice thing here as an admin, you have the ability to actually author new tags. So if one of these tags did not exist, you can go ahead and just add that. Now, if a tag does exist and you start typing something like standards, it'll automatically fill in the rest of that tag right there for you if it already has existed. For anything that's new, when I, for example, typed in user guide, or maybe I want to type in something like spreadsheet. Notice how spreadsheet doesn't actually have any kind of auto fill in right there. So it's going to build me a brand new tag for this. So when I click add, it'll add that new spreadsheet tag. And I'm adding spreadsheet specifically because one of the files or components inside this project suite that a person could use is a tool called Spreadsheet Link. So I'm adding spreadsheet as one of the tags. If they search for that, they'll be able to find the project suite user guide pretty easily here. So, and there's other tools, of course. I might want to put, you know, select or quick select or something like that. So I could add some of the tools in there as tags to make it really easy for people to search and filter for that. Ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and click process. It's going to process that one file. Won't take too long. It's just basically going to read through some of the metadata of that file. It's also going to upload it to the cloud, since this is a cloud-hosted library as it is right now. It's going to associate those tags, and now it's going to make it available for the end users to be able to find that. So if I wanted to go find it now, I could go to search. And if I'm searching for stuff out of a specific library, like my help library, I can filter for that library directly. I can also filter based on tags that exist in here. So if I wanted to search for something like, let's see, I probably need to refresh this here. Let's refresh my tags list. There we go. Spreadsheet is now in my list. And if I just do a search for star up here, and I hit search, it'll go through and find that CTC BIM Project Suite User Guide PDF. And of course, an end user could click on this and open it up. They could find it and then browse through and find whatever's appropriate inside that document, right? Now, if you're working with some of this information, let me get rid of this spreadsheet filter right here and just research this so I find all the documents inside of there. You can do a little bit of management of these files right from this search page as a library admin. You can actually right-click on one of these. You can choose Edit. That'll let you grab that file and do some basic edits to it, modifying its tags, adding attachments, links, modifying library associations, right? There's a lot of things you can do from this edit window directly from the main search page. You can actually take a file if there's been an update to it, or even a series of files inside of here if there's been updates to a number of them, and you can reprocess them. So if, for example, the actual documents themselves have had updates and you wanted to update and refresh the one that's online, you can simply select and reprocess those. HIVE doesn't automatically upload things for you when you've made updates in your local network. So once you do make a modification to a file, it's usually a good idea to reprocess it within the HIVE as well to make sure that the online version, if it's cloud hosted, is up to date as well. That's especially important if you're dealing with Revit content, because some of the type information and parameter data that's in the family is stored in the database of HIVE. It makes it really quick and easy for users to find it. But again, it does matter that you reprocess that file. So as a library admin, that's one of your roles, is to make sure you're managing the content there. Now, another thing that's important here, if I go over to the Content tab, this is another spot where you can manage content in your library. When you click on Content, it will list every single file up to 100 that are in all of the libraries that you can admin. Now, if you're working on a specific library, I'd probably go up here and filter for that down if you have more than one library that you're an admin of. So here in this case, you can actually see that there's been a bunch of these files that have been renamed or deleted. It doesn't understand exactly where this file is. Now, I happen to know why that is. That's because over here, if I look at the path of these files, I noticed that some of these are in an installed folder, and they're all for one of my suites of tools, but they actually got moved. So they weren't deleted, but they were moved, and HIVE doesn't understand exactly where to find those files. So the nice thing here is that you can actually take and select some of these guys here, and you can do a find and replace on some of these paths. So I can find some of these things here, like these data suite tools that are all have all been moved. And I can do a little action here. Actually, I'm going to check the selected ones, so it actually checks them. And then I can go in here and say, find and replace file paths with something. So when I do this, it'll say find what? And I can say, well, find installs, if I can spell, find installs / and replace that with installs. And I have to go look what the path is actually supposed to be for this. 1 second here. This should be, I'm going to go pull this across here for you. This should be, it's actually on my local drive here. Normally I wouldn't add content to HIVE from my local drive, but I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. And it's right here. There's my installs folder, and it's in the data suite folder. So this here is what the path should read, installs data suite. That's what I want to replace with. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm simply going to paste that right there and include that / there at the end. So I'm going to update that path. I put it in one subfolder because there was a lot of data suite specific documentation, and for my own brain, I wanted to organize it there, but I need to make sure that HIVE understands this. I'd added the content to HIVE before it was moved. So I'm going to replace those paths, and for those 4 files right there, the 4 that I had selected, it's going to go ahead and update that. Now, I could have found other things inside of here that were also supposed to be in there as well and fix them. I'm just fixing these 4 right here. Now, in this case, I can, reprocess these. I can update all of this. It's going to update all the content that it can find. In this case, the 4 And so all 4 are being updated, and it should tell me once I refresh this later that these are not renamed or deleted. They're actually found now in that location. Yeah, there's no change to those files now because they're good to go. So as a library admin, the vast majority of your work is actually going to be more about adding content and content management and refreshing content that's already in the Hive. That's the primary role of a library admin here. Now, there's one other thing that you can do as a library admin that's really important as well. Users can make requests. There's a little requests option right here inside of Hive. You'll also have this if you want to make requests of libraries to which you're not an admin. But when a request is made, as a library admin, you'll actually have the manage requests option right here. Let's make a brand new request real quick. I'm going to click request. I'm going to make an assumption that this is going to go to a specific library. I'm going to choose the help library since we happen to be an admin of that library. So I'm going to make this request of the help library specifically. And maybe I need to have some installation guide for, I don't know, Revit, just Revit in general. I want, oops, if I could spell. I want to have the installation guide for Revit just at my fingertips here inside of Hive, maybe for Revit 2019 or something. So maybe I want to put some details on that as an end user. I can describe exactly what it is I'm looking for. If I happen to have that file at my fingertips, I could actually add that into this request and then let a library admin of that help library actually read that into the Hive environment directly. But I can suggest files right here. I can also suggest some tags for this. So if, for example, one of the tags was going to be something like Revit, I can suggest that. And then the library admin team will understand that Revit is one of the tags perhaps that should be associated with that particular document when it gets pushed in. All right. Now, I don't have a document at my fingertips for the installation guide for Revit 2019. So what I'm actually asking for is for somebody to find that and to add that directly into Hive for me to be able to find later, since I don't know where to go get it maybe. So I'm going to click send request. Okay. Now, obviously, this is a little bit silly because I am the admin of this library, but the whole goal here is that you can see kind of how this works. If I click over on manage requests now and I refresh this list, I'll actually see that somebody has requested an install guide for Revit 2019. Somebody else had requested a printing process workflow here that perhaps was also associated to that help library. But I can see this particular install guide for Revit 2019. If I'm the person who's going to take control of this, I can click assign and I can assign it to myself. And now I'm the owner of this. The original requester of this particular request would have been now notified that, hey, you know, the owner is this particular person. They can come and give more information later or whatever. You can also update the status of this. So if I'm now working on this, I can say that this is in progress. And that end user, whoever requested that again, would be able to go back to their request. When they click on the My Request page over here, they would see that this particular install guide is being worked on by this person and it's in progress. And then eventually, when you actually find the document and you upload it, you can update that status again to completed. So once you've completed that, that person can go, that document's in there now. I can go search for it and I can go find wherever that file is. And maybe you also do the common courtesy of sending them an email letting them know that you finished this, but you know, and where they can search for it and some of the search criteria, but and you know, maybe get their feedback on it. But you know, at least they can be notified of what that process is right there, what that progress is. So that little requests page will be, you know, the manage requests will be an area that you'll want to make sure you focus on. So when users are asking for content or maybe giving some feedback on some content, you can review that through the requests page here. Ultimately, that's about all there is to adminning a Hive library. So let's take a look real quick here at some of the conclusions. Library management really is, again, like I said before, a lot more about content management than it is about user management. Really, it's just giving you the controls to be able to get in there, add content, and maintain the content that's in a particular Hive library. Hive does try to do as much work for you as possible. Tries to notify you when something might be out of line. Like, for example, when it was telling me it couldn't find that file, that it was removed or renamed or deleted or something was wrong with it. So it tries to let you know some of that information, and then it gives you the tools to allow you to go through and fix it. User requests can be a great way to receive some of those, the user requested information from the end users. I mean, you could do an email chain, of course, as well, but the request directly inside of Hive can be great because it's a single point of management. You're doing the content management there, but you're also getting your requests right from there. And I also can use request to your advantage for some new tags. So as a library admin, if you're trying to create tags, or even if you're not necessarily an admin of another library, but you're an admin somewhere, you can actually author tags from the admin portion. You can make some new tags for content and then just apply that to other content in other libraries. So it can be a great way to leverage and be able to build some new tags. Do try to be clean though about your tagging. Try to be as consistent as you possibly can. Not really a good idea to kind of, arbitrarily just throw random tags out there, because then tags become a little tricky to use and to manage for the other admin team, the company admin team. But, it's a great way that you guys can actually search and find content. With that, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate your time today. As you exit this webinar, please do give us some feedback. If you liked today's presentation or you want information on other tools from CTC or other workflows, let us know that stuff. We definitely watch those bits of feedback from you and leverage that to kind of build all the webinars that we try to put together. Also, if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. This webinar has been recorded and is being put up on YouTube here in just a couple of days. So you'll be able to review this again in the future if you wanted to, and be able to go back and re-look at this information when you're actually going through and doing some of that library administration stuff, as well as some of the other topics that we put out there. With that, y'all have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you in future CTC presentations.